everyone, thank you so much for coming or for coming back. Today I'm going to show you a very tasty recipe for a flourless chocolate cake. Now this cake is so amazingly moist and fudgy and dense and chocolatey. If you've ever been upset with your brownies and wanted them to be even fudgier, then what you probably actually wanted is this cake. It is so good, so rich and chocolatey. So all the ingredients and the measurements are listed down below and we can start baking. The first thing we are going to do is go ahead and melt together our butter and our chocolate. I'm just using chocolate chips here, but if you want to use a high quality chocolate, then go ahead, that will just make your cake even tastier. So I'm just combining these in a bowl and I'm going to melt them over a double boiler. So I've got a pot filled with a little bit of water. If you don't want to do this, then you can put them in a microwave safe bowl, throw them in the microwave and give them a stir every 20 to 30 seconds until they are fully melted. Once your chocolate and butter are fully melted and combined and nice and very silky smooth, you're going to go ahead and you're going to add in your sugar, salt and vanilla. Give that a quick whisk together with a whisk instead of a spatula, and we are also going to add our 3 eggs. Now first you want to just go ahead and crack these eggs into another bowl, possibly one a little bit bigger than the one I used here, and just give them a whisk up to make sure that they are nice and beaten just a little bit, and then we can go ahead and plop those into our chocolate mixture and mix them once again with a whisk until they are nicely combined. Next we are going to add in our cocoa powder. We are going to make sure to sift in our cocoa powder because cocoa is one of those ingredients that gets lumps very easily. So make sure you go ahead and sift in and then break up any of those lumps. Get them nice and small, and then we're just going to go ahead and use our spatula again and stir in the cocoa until our batter is nice and smooth and looking beautifully chocolatey. After the cocoa is all mixed in and our batter is ready to go, we are going to pour it into our pan. Now here I am using a 7-inch springform pan. It is lined on the bottom as well as the sides. You don't have to use a springform pan, but it will make it much easier to get out later on. But as long as you line the bottom and the sides, you should be able to get your cake out of any cake pan you use. So just go ahead and pour the batter into a nice even layer in your cake pan, and then it's going into a 375 degrees Fahrenheit oven. We are going to cook this for about 35 to 45 minutes. This will look a little bit different than a regular cake because there is no flour or baking powder or anything like that in it, so it won't rise quite the same, but you will be able to tell that it is fully cooked because the top will look nicely set and it will form a nice little dome shape. Once you take your cake out of the oven, go ahead and just leave it to cool down on a wire rack or just any sort of heat-proof board or mat, and leave it until it is completely cooled. Once the cake is completely cooled, we can set about making our ganache for the top of the cake. This is optional, but I would always recommend a little bit more chocolate in your dessert. So just like at the beginning of the cake making process, we are going to combine our chocolate and our butter and put it over a double boiler or again in a microwave, stirring it every once in a while until it is completely melted. Now, while that is melting, we are going to prepare our cake. So what I'm doing here is removing the bottom of the springform pan as well as the parchment on the bottom, and I'm setting it onto the cake plate that I intend to serve it on. I am leaving on the parchment around the outside of the cake as well as the outside ring of the springform pan. This will give me a really easy way to get a nice clean finish so that I can ice just the top of the cake and it will be nice and sharp around the sides. If you aren't using a springform pan, then you can just leave on the parchment, or you can even take it away and do a little more of a rough icing, or even ice all the way down the sides. So after my chocolate and butter are nicely melted and looking very nice and smooth, I'm going to add in a nice little pinch of salt as well as a splash of vanilla, and then stir that together and it will be nice and shiny and beautifully chocolate. Now I'm just going to dump all of my chocolate ganache onto the top of the cake, and I'm going to use a little offset spatula to spread it all around the top. You can just use a regular spatula or a spoon or even a knife at this point. Now I'm just going to get it how I want it to look. I'm not worried about making it smooth. I'm going to add a little bit of texture, and now I'm just going to leave it to sit. You can leave it at room temperature, but I just put it in the fridge to speed it up just a little bit. Now after about 10 minutes, your ganache should be nicely set. You can pull out your cake, take away anything that you have on the sides, for me again the springform ring and the collar, and you should have a beautifully set ganache on top of your cake. Now go ahead and cut it up and serve it. You can add whatever you like to serve, a little bit of whipped cream, maybe some berries, some powdered sugar, or even more cocoa powder on top. Any of these would be amazing. Again, this chocolate cake is so nice. It is so dense, so fudgy. It's like everything you want in a fudgy brownie, but in a chocolate cake. And again, it is flourless, so it just so happens to be gluten-free if that is something that you are interested in trying out. So, I hope you make this, I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you next time.